and Bagbin is now an institution. I don't expect that he would allow Parliament to become a rubber stamp for the executive. So even though John Mahama has an overwhelming majority, he got close to 6% of the vote, NDC has 2/3 and more, I expect Speaker Bagbin to try and preserve the sanctity and independence of Parliament. He will become a lot like Peter Alajete. I don't expect any conflict necessarily, but there are times where he will dig in. If you look at his posture, you listen to him throughout the years, he believes Parliament as an institution should be built in an image that helps a democracy, which is why I think there were some people in NDC who felt that he shouldn't have been repeated, because when people come to power, they want malleable media, malleable judiciary, malleable legislature. It's normal. Bagbin is unbending, a very strong-willed person, highly competent. So it will be an interesting Parliament, because even though NDC overwhelmingly has the majority, I'm very sure there will be occasions where Speaker Bagbin will make decisions to favor Parliament. This is one of my predictions. Number two, the second big issue will be who to make the deputy speaker. I think Selom explained that quite well in terms of the maneuverings in 2005 and how it cost NDC. If I look at the posture of NDC and the way they are fighting for every seat, they feel really hard done by the MPP in the past 4 years, particularly. If you listen to Kazilato forcing very carefully about his prosecution, I don't think MDC is going to give MPP any gifts. They've won overwhelmingly, but from the deputy minority leader Kofi Boa to Kazio, they both describe this as the worst government. I expect them to try and show MPP where power lies, at least from the beginning, partly to assuage their very angry supporters who believe they've even left guard, because some of these supporters think they won 190 seats. So I don't think NDC will give MPP any favor. So it may even turn out, we are told Bernard Ahiafo will be the deputy speaker. It's very possible they may even make an independent member of parliament the second deputy. And which is interesting, because when you listen to President Mahama talking to Nana Akufo-Addo this evening, when they met in the afternoon, it was very conciliatory, very cordial. These are two experienced politicians who know the game. But the maneuverings of parliament is very different. So I think we should look out for the voting for speaker and the selection of deputy speakers. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And I think the other more important question as well is who will lead the majority, because again, we've been told that these current executives on minority side will lead temporarily, because I suspect a lot of them will become ministers. Then the tone of parliament will be set by the personality that is chosen to actually the majority, probably in about 2 weeks. Because President Mahama has said that he will choose his ministers in 2 weeks. So in 14 days, we'll have the full complement. And from there, they will start rearranging parliament. So a lot of the matters in terms of the nature and character of this parliament will be clearer probably by end of January. So I don't think NDC will play their hand now. MPP took a risk by playing their hand. We know it's Apenyo Makin. We know it's Mama Patricia Acheje. Political maneuvering-wise, I think NDC will wait. And they may pull a very interesting surprise for who they choose as majority leader in terms of wanting to use, because, final point, for a one-term president who has to be replaced by competition, who is in the middle of an IMF program, he effectively has 2.5 years. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on President Mahama. So I expect him to choose somebody for his majority leader who will facilitate his very ambitious policies to make them happen within 2 years. Because by the third year, all focus will be on who replaces him. There will be no coherence in government. So you expect a Mahama insider to lead the majority side to try and push through all the things he wants to do. So watch this space in the next 2 weeks. A lot will happen.
Okay, let's look at the people who are likely to support Speaker Bagbin in terms of the deputies. Names are being, bundled around. Let me start with you, Selom. I'm sure you've heard some names and all that.
Sure. We've had a few names. So, of course, what is quite obvious is Bernard Ahiafo is a lawyer, very good lawyer, and I hear he's one of the top brains in Parliament when it comes to legislative drafting. Indeed, I hear himself and Chairman Sabonsu And indeed, my good friend George Lowe in his time was also one of those guys. But I hear in the last parliament, Ben Ahiafo and Osechi Mensah-Bonsu were the key guys anytime it came to legislative drafting. And that's key for an institution like parliament. And so even though he was in the minority, you understand he was used a lot by the guys in the majority to help them work on drafts, etc. His name is come up. But you see, it's a representational thing. So Ben Ahiafo there solves the voter region problem. So you have Speaker Babin who solves maybe the northern problem, and the executive ticket itself has no representation from the voter region, which is a key part of everything.
Yeah, for them.
So northern is represented there as well in John Mahama, and the Fanti question is answered, or the account question perhaps is answered. So I think the workings of the NDC, or maybe the thinking, should be that they need to satisfy a core group of their base, which is in the voter region. Even before Haruna became minority leader, we saw some maneuverings in the voter regional caucus where they proposed Aveji as the guy to lead the minority because they had stood with the government or with the party, and they contributed the most number of MPs, for the minority caucus at the time. But a few things happened. Haruna emerged as a leader, of course, with word from Cletus Avoka and Co, who said that the parliament required somebody who understood law, and Haruna was a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. Haruna eventually emerged as a minority leader. And then Aveji was made to deputize him, solving the voter question again. So I think in this sense, Ahiafo solves that question. He's competent in his own right. He's a lawyer. He's good. He's had some experience. I think he succeeded Dua Jaho. So if for nothing at all, he succeeded as speaker. So perhaps there's some there's some traces of speakership in that seat. Perhaps he brings that to the table. Yeah. Perhaps he learned from Dua Jaho. So he answers that question. The second deputy speaker will be quite interesting. The convention really has been that normally the opposition party takes it. The constitution is clear that the two deputies must not come from the same party. I think Article 96 or so. The two deputies must not come from the same party. What we saw in 2005 was interesting. When the majority at the time told the minority guys that do not propose anybody. If you propose somebody, we will take the second deputy speakership away from you. That second deputy speakership at the time was to be given to Kenjirasa because he had, in the previous parliament, acted as the first deputy speaker. So true to their words, when they opposed Bejina Sechi Hughes' ascension to the speaker role, and it was time to propose a first deputy speaker, of course, they proposed Freddie Blay. And if you watch it on that day, quickly, Kenjirasa was the guy who stood to second it, thinking that everything was fine. So when it came for the second deputy speakership, now they proposed a guy from Yendi, Malik Yakubu, who at some point in the Kufuor first term was the interior minister, but had to resign because of the Yendi matters. He was proposed as the second deputy speaker of parliament. It went through. They put it to a vote. He won. So he became the second deputy speaker of parliament. Mm-hmm. What was interesting was that the two deputies, they don't come from one party. Freddie Blay was from the CPP, whilst Malik Yakubu was from the MPP. Now, there are a number of independent candidates in there. Mm-hmm. So if the way things are playing out, if we are to look at it from that side, it's possible that an independent candidate could be pushed to the position of second deputy speaker. We have 4 independent candidates in parliament. I think 2 of them are from the NDC stock. The guy from Afram Plains, in the north or south, and then the guy from Woolensea. The guy from Afram Plains is a lawyer, which puts him in a good position. A+ would love it, but I'm not sure if that could be given to him.
Yeah, we are being told.
Gentleman, we are told, has said he will caucus with NDC.
Yes.
Oh, he will caucus with NDC?
Yeah, but of the 4, I know certainly that the Afram Plains North is a lawyer. Mm-hmm. The Woolensea guy is a businessman. Mm-hmm. And then the MPP gentleman is whose profession I do.
Okay.
So it's going to be an
And
interesting.
A+ is a what? Is an entertainment. Is a creative guy.
It's from a creative side.
So for me, it will be interesting. I wish
And they are all first timers.
Yes, they are first timers. I wish they could give it to the MPP to continue in the tradition. But given the acrimony we saw in the last parliament and things we are seeing around, the NDC may want to show its muscles and say, okay, because you've done ABC, we will take this from you. But it would be nice to have the MPP represented there as a second deputy speaker. That would be nice. That would really be nice.
But are there any MPP names that we could consider? Because you look at experience, because I think the speakership is an experience role. The MPP, as
but this guy, the former guy is still there. Now, properly
he's still there,
MPP.
yes.
Yeah. Now MPP proper.
And the point I'm trying to make is the MPP side is not very many, less than 90. And because of the new standing orders, there are so many committees, so they're already overstretched. So it's going to be very, of course, there are some very good legislators, and we'll go through the list. There are some very expensive legislators there who qualify. But I also think if the NDC is magnanimous to give it to MPP, it also sets the tone for some type of cooperation. Because if Bababin says something, that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. He was speaking in parables. And I think his point is that you may have 2/3, but the way parliament works, if you really want to succeed, carry others along. Right? The last thing I'll say is that President Mahama himself has said that he will govern by consensus. He started advising Akufo-Addo to build consensus like 6 months before he went for the IMF program. If you listen to his campaign, it should be something they should try, because for me, having the MPP as deputy speaker, it also brings them to the table. It's a bit like voting for MDCs. If you have some districts run by the opposition DCE, they have a stake in what happens. So I think that the calculation should not be just we want to show them where power lies, but let's put the nation first. And I think there are some very quality legislators on the MPP side who can help form a formidable team. Because as we saw,
you give us some of the names you think can do a great job from the MPP side.
I was just going through the list. Take Eastern Region. MP for Akim Swedru. He's been on the Road Transport Committee, sparring with Governor Saboja for many, many years. He's a good legislator.
I would say
Patrick Boama, if his issues are
troubles
resolved,
are behind
of
him,
course, because of the way the Okaigwe South is going, it may be acrimonious. But there are some really quality lawyers on the MPP side.
The formula MP, now MPP proper, because he's had experience in the first parliament. So why not repeat him? And
he was independent before.
Now he's MPP. Yeah. So he's had experience.
But we need to ask NDC whether they think how is Isiama viewed among the NDC? Was he a fair? Because I can say that when Freddie Blay was speaker, I don't think the NDC was happy with him because he was quite hawkish for MPP, which is how come they even eventually pushed him fully into MPP. But I don't know whether Isiama's conduct has been hawkishly MPP necessarily.
Well, you see, the first thing was that Freddie Blay was a first deputy speaker. And the first deputy speaker and the second deputy speaker, there's a bit of a difference. Second deputy speaker, you rarely get to even preside over the house. Siama, as we all know him, well, he was okay. But having said that, the dynamics are very different now. You see, you are taking decisions not based only on the fact that Parliament wants to take a decision. Parliamentarians got there by a political party. And the political party has a base. Sometimes it's dangerous not to listen to your base. Sometimes it's okay not to, depending on what you think you would get. Do not forget, but before then, let's also see that if Bernard Anyanfo, for many should remember that he was actually going to be the second deputy speaker in the last parliament. In actual fact, he was a name that NDC wanted to choose. Then, by some twist of fate, it was given to Esiama. And do not forget that it was Muntaka who proposed Esiama. So there may have been some backroom negotiation at the time. So for Bernard, I agree with Selom. Bernard represents the Volta region. And so I had predicted long ago that if anybody was going to get that position, it was likely to be Bernard. But having said that, there are very experienced people also on the side of the on the MPP, and we'll see how it plays out. But if you ask me, my personal position and what I hear on the ground is that the NDC is not ready to cede to the NPP. But you know that before these decisions are finalized, a lot of talk goes on. And let me just also correct a certain impression. You see, in nominating or in asking that Speaker Gbagin be nominated or mandating, you see the word was, he has mandated them to nominate Speaker Gbagin.
Yeah.
It is a product of a certain discussion.
Discussion, yeah. It's not out of the vacuum.
No, there is an advisory committee that is advising His Excellency the President-elect on appointments.
Yeah.
So you can be sure that that may be a product of that system. Whether we like it or not. Well, for the, I don't know, for effect, some people think that then it should be seen as though some neutral body was elected. But whether we like it or not, it is always the President-elect whose consent must be bought in nominating a speaker. And you will remember that in the last election, before Right Honorable Gbagin was elected, all the MPs had a meeting with former President John Mahama.
Okay.
It was from that meeting that they came to the House and nominated Speaker Gbagin. So clearly nothing untoward has gone on. The reality is that whether we like it or not, the man whose consent must be sought is the President-elect. And he has just done that by saying, I give you the mandate to nominate Mr. So and so, and do it. But, like we all know, it doesn't preclude others from nominating anybody. It doesn't.
Are we likely to see that tonight?
You see, in 2005, why nobody expected the Speaker Gbagin to nominate Speaker Alajeti. Nobody expected it, but it happened. So in this case, in the unlikely event, because as we sit here, we haven't heard that anybody was coming. In the unlikely event that there is a second nomination, the good thing is that it's not likely to fly at all, looking at the numbers on the floor. So for me, things will be made simpler if we just went and nominated Speaker Gbagin. And even with a voice vote, we should be able to confirm him.
If the NDC decide not to see the second majority slot, what kind of names are we likely to see?
Oh, there are 4 names, and it's likely that one of them would be.
Give us your names, and then the.
Well, I mean, as I said, there are 4 independent candidates. Okay, there are 4 independent candidates. No, are you saying the speakership? If
Yeah, the deputy speakership.
yeah, deputy speaker, as I said, here for has been.
No, not
the
for
second.
the second. Yeah.
No, the second. If MPP is not going to be considered, there are 4 independent candidates. And for me, I agree with Bernard when he says that Pelly tops my list. For the simple reason that he's a lawyer, he will understand things better, he will conduct the house better. Because
He's also an NDC member.
he's also an NDC
who,
member.
because of primary
Issues,
disagreements, went and when I interviewed him, his argument was that if he hadn't run as independent, MPP would have won the seat.
Yeah.
Then he writes to the General Secretary to indicate his willingness to cooperate with the NDC side after the interview. So you can tell he's playing his cards very well. That, look, I went in to save my party because if I hadn't gone independent, Crosby would have lost. And if you look at the votes he got, it's quite clear that the MPP person would have made inroads. So he could have an argument. And usually independent candidates have only 1 term. Usually you don't stay independent for 2 terms, which is why Fomina brought him back. So it's quite likely that if he plays along with the NDC, it will mean that then it prepares the ground for him to then get
to go
in
back
again.
Yeah.
And as a lawyer trained in Canada, which is a common law jurisdiction with their English strength, I think he stands tall among the independent candidates. But I still think that you can also send the signal. Kennedy Osenyaku is a good guy from the Eastern region I saw. there are a couple of guys. I think it will most likely be Eastern or Ashanti. If you look at the MPP side.
Yeah, but you see, with the MPP side, what you mentioned, Patrick Boama, who has issues.
Oh, Ahimedou-Ntwi.
Yeah,
Ahimedou-Ntwi is a very experienced
yes,
Asante Akim.
he's been chairman of Constitutional Legal
He's in his fifth term.
You know,
Highly
so
respected.
that-
Sometimes when
that-
somebody's in parliament for a long time, they tend to get respect on the other side. All right, Ahimedou-Ntwi is a decent guy.
Yes, but all I'm saying is that there are two sides that is going to be played. There are the option of, well, let's play ball, let's be conciliatory and get the MPP. But I'm saying, and I'm not saying,
That's what it will be.
all I'm saying is that if you follow the sentiment on the ground, the foot soldiers are not in a mood
They are not in the mood for.
for MPP to
So is it the tail wagging the dog? Don't you think at some
They
point,
are not.
you know, for me, look, sometimes leadership, because of their clearer vision and their better understanding of what is at stake.
Yeah.
If you listen to President Mahama and Akufo-Addo talking today, if you see Julius Debra and Frema talking today, foot soldiers should watch it. These are people who are very clear in terms of the understanding statecraft. So it's not foot soldier sentiments that goes on.
Yeah,
the
you
TV, they
see,
have to
Bernard.
pick. So
you see,
sometimes
I agree.
you have to lead from the front.
Yes, I agree.
You don't have to always listen
Yes,
to
I
soldiers.
agree that you have to lead from the front sometimes. But you see, Bernard, you're also looking at the whole political spectrum. You are not just deciding that, oh, things must change because Ghana will be the better for it. Simplicity. You see, this is politics we are talking about. You are going to go back to these same food soldiers in a few years to make a decision on you. Better still, I agree, some maybe engagement could have been done. But I'm saying that sometimes also you need to satisfy your base. It doesn't, listen, if you bring in Peli, the good thing about it is that if you bring in Peli, as we speak, is not an NDC member. The constitution allows it. He's experienced. He's a lawyer. He's experienced. He's capable of doing it. That is one way. Then we can also say that, oh, we want an MPP around the table. And therefore, let's get... But when it mattered most, they didn't want us around the table. That is one of the things you remember.
So the sentiment
tit
on the
for
ground
tat.
for
Yes,
NDC
yes. When it
is
mattered
that
most, they
give an
didn't want
independent
us around.
candidate the second deputy.
They didn't want us around. Big,
The NDC has a very huge mandate. A lot of that will chip away over time because you are always more popular before the nomination, than after the nomination because you will take decisions. Of course, the stagecraft thing Bernard is talking about, we saw that in 2017 or 2016, 2017, after the MPP won that election. It was the same thing, and it's how it will be. I mean, you don't have to be fighting. But after that so-called statecrafting, we saw how some elements of the NDC will argue they were treated. Okay, so that is just for the cameras. Okay, it's just for it. Now, the sentiments on the, like he's saying, I won't say they're calling for blood, but they want to retaliate, which may not necessarily be in the national interest. Yeah. But Mahama will also need that goodwill from the grassroots to carry him a bit far. So you don't want to be chipping away that goodwill now. I'm open for anything. They can decide to go with the independent. They may decide to go with the MPP too. I'm not expecting any magic or anything big. Any of them, I'm prepared for it. But it will be interesting how it plays out. There's been a talk about separation of powers. And I think sometimes we overemphasize separation of powers, okay? It's a doctrine. It's a doctrine put out by some jurists and some doctrinaires. It is not a watertight system. So we say the judiciary must be independent. But the president, who is executive or head of the executive, appoints the Supreme Court justices and the Chief Justice. What is separation of powers?
In consultation with Parliament.
Of course, all of that, but it's a very rare occasion. So it's the same thing. So talking about the so-called endorsement or nomination by Babin by Mahama, I think it's the same thing. In any case, in the NDC constitution, Mahama is the leader of the party. So if we want a party, it will be a party decision. it's not derogated from that. It is still a party decision. Only that he is now president-elect. Not president yet. He's not president-elect. So speaking about it being a party decision, it is still a party decision. You get my point? So separation of powers is good. It's the way to go. But it is never watertight. Speaker of Parliament, all of that. Even Ghana, majority of MPs by constitution are to be, majority of ministers are to be taken from Parliament. Why is separation of powers? So you know, it's an interesting concept, but we have to apply it, you know, in a way that will make our system make sense, really. I think that's what it is.
Okay, so this is our special coverage of the inauguration of the 9th Parliament. We'll give you a bit of some sights and sounds from the chamber proper. Let's take you quickly to the chamber to see how things are. It's pretty empty. Nobody
has gone to
You know,
sit
4
anywhere.
years ago by now, your side had come
you know,
in a bus,
the
all
tension
in
was high.
white. You know.
When voters decide, it's easy. So now nobody's in a hurry.
But today it's very quiet, you know, nobody's in a hurry like Bernard is saying. We're just seeing about 3 or 4 legislators in the chamber proper. So as and when they are ready, we'll take you there. But gentlemen, let's look at the leaders for both sides, the names that have been presented. Since we are talking about the party that is coming into government, we can look at the incoming majority side. They have for now maintain their leaders. Why so? You are inside. What's happening?
Well, because as Bernard had indicated earlier, there is a time frame to do a lot of things. Some of the frontliners, you are sure, are people who are very experienced. But also because of this constitutional imperative that certain number of them should come from Parliament, you are looking at putting some of your best foot forward. And for instance, when you look at the caliber of people on our French bench, at least they are guys who have the experience. And I think apart from
So there's
Atu Forcing, there's Ama Kufibwa, yes, and then second, then Ahmed
Ibrahim Banda.
Banda, yes.
So it's a nice region.
It's a
Central
nice
region, Western region, Volta region, Greater Accra region, and then Bono region.
Yes. So I'm sure that at least 1 or 2 may go the ministerial way.
Is it 1 or 2 or 3 or 4?
Well, I'm just but you must also take into consideration the fact that in our last leadership shake-up, a lot of permutations came up. A lot of people suggested that the mode of selection must change.
Okay.
We have a new crop of people in Parliament. Maybe it's also a time for more consultation.
Okay.
So we are not in a hurry. As you yourself have said, the president would be possibly rolling out his full team in about 2 weeks. Within that time, a lot of things will be taken into consideration. And I keep saying that, you see, Vivian, the challenge we have as a party today is that as many 13 regions have delivered emphatically. So it is not one of those things that you say, oh, this you brought only 2, so you can be overlooked in these things. You would need to negotiate properly, so that you satisfy all those who need to be satisfied.
Okay.
So it's not a decision that is going to be made lightly.
Okay. We'll come back to that discussion, but let me introduce Vincent Safwa. He's the MP for Old Tafo into the conversation. Welcome, Honorable.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Let me quickly pick your thoughts on your expectations tonight as you prepare to be sworn in for the 9th Parliament.
Well, I think that is going to be an interesting Parliament, especially if you want to juxtapose that with what we just dissolved. The numbers are interestingly distinguishable if you want to compare the 2 parliaments. It is unfortunate that the New Patriotic Party do not have the strength in its numbers as compared to the 7th and the 8th Parliament. And so it's a Herculean task. But this is when I think that the New Patriotic Party, if we are able to show unity and force, can drum home the interests of the Ghanaian people by way of constructive criticism. Not criticism that is just mere criticism, but one that will advance the cause of development, one that will advance the cause of democracy. And I think that that is what the Ghanaian people are expecting from us. And that is exactly what we are also going to give to the Ghanaian people. And so my expectations are that tonight we should be able to elect a Speaker of Parliament as per the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. We should be able to elect Deputy Speakers of Parliament as per the Constitution of Ghana. And when I say elect Deputy Speakers of Parliament, we are electing Deputy Speakers of Parliament who should not belong to the same party.
Okay.
If anybody has any intent to find a way to get two people probably from the same party,
Yeah.
it is not going to work.
It will work. You are
anybody
going to
says
resist that.
If anybody says that we are going to get an independent party who is going to caucus with the NDC and elect that person, it is not going to work. The phrase of the Constitution is that they should not belong to the same political party. What that means is that if an independent candidate who so wishes to be a second deputy speaker wants to be a second deputy speaker, if I should put it that way, that candidate should be able to caucus with the opposite political party.
Yeah.
Because an independent candidate, properly so called, in my estimation, cannot be a deputy speaker. You have to caucus with one before you can now qualify. Because the Constitution says political party, not an independent candidate. And so that is my understanding. So I hope that is going to be a discussion, or if you like, a show of understanding of what the Constitution actually says. I do not expect that the MPP will be shortchanged in this.
But for what we are picking, it's likely to be the case. With your numbers, what can you do to stop that?
So I'm saying that an independent candidate, properly so called, is not a political party. Article 96 of the Constitution says that these two persons should not belong to the same political party.
Yes.
So ab initio, an independent candidate is disqualified. You see what happened in 2020 or 2021?
Yeah.
2021. It was Muntaka who actually nominated Esiama. So what that means is that, to their understanding, they had already made Esiama to caucus with them and they supported it. So he did not come in by virtue.
I mean, quickly, I was discussing this on the side with Selom. Selom, when he was here.
Bernard is yet to understand what I'm saying. Because you don't understand what I'm saying.
You see, vintage MPP. Vintage MPP. When it suits them, it's good. When it doesn't suit them, they now begin to introduce.
Hold on, Bernard, have you read the Constitution? If you read the Constitution, Article 96, what does it say? It says that the two deputy speakers of Parliament
should not come from the same political party.
The same political party. I'm suggesting to you, it's an independent candidate, a political party.
So let's answer it simply.
No, you have not even answered.
Let's answer it simply.
Yes.
In 2021,
yes,
the first deputy was Joe Osewusu.
Yes.
He's from MPP.
Yes.
Esiama was an independent candidate.
Yes.
So the two of them were not from the same political party.
Yes, but you see, you have to caucus with one first.
One of them.
No, caucus is not the same as being.
With the MPP,
Being from a political party
Uh-huh.
is not the same as caucusing.
No, what I'm saying
Caucusing is about majority, minority.
Yes.
A political party, that's why when an independent party joins a political party,
Yes.
he forfeits his
so
seat.
on what basis the Esiama becomes second deputy speaker?
No, I'm saying that the constitution itself is simple. If you join a political party as an independent, you
Yes.
forfeit your seat because you came non-aligned.
Yes.
So that non-alignment means you are not from the same political party as either MPP or NDC.
I am
So
suggesting-
independent candidate qualifies.
No, I don't interpret it that way. Per my interpretation, per my understanding,